Someone with zero coding experience sat down one afternoon with just an idea in their head. No computer science degree, no tutorials watched, no Stack Overflow tabs open, just an idea and a description typed in plain English. 2 hours later, they had a working web application with a database, with user login, with real functionality, deployed live on the internet. And here's the part nobody tells you. They never wrote a single line of code. This is not a rare story anymore. It's happening thousands of times a day, and the tools making it possible have become so capable, so accessible, and so beginner-friendly in 2026 that the only real question left is, which one do you start with? Because not all these tools are the same. Some are built for people who have never touched code in their life. Some are built for beginners who want to learn as they build. Some will give you a beautiful demo that falls apart the moment a real user tries to do something unexpected. And one or two will actually get you to a product that works, that scales, and that you could hand off to a professional developer without them having to rewrite everything from scratch. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which tool matches where you are right now and, more importantly, where you want to go. Before we dive in, if you've been waiting for a moment when technology finally made building something feel possible for you, this is that moment. Hit like right now, leave a comment telling us what kind of app or tool you've always wanted to build, and subscribe so you're here when we go even deeper on this. Let's start with some context, because understanding why this moment is different from every previous no-code revolution will help you use these tools more realistically. For the past 20 years, there were tools that promised to let non-developers build software. Most of them hit the same wall. They worked fine for simple things, and then the moment your idea got slightly more complex, the moment you needed to connect to a real database or add user accounts or handle a payment, you were suddenly looking at configuration screens that required a developer to understand anyway. The tools we're talking about today are fundamentally different because the AI isn't just generating visual blocks, it's generating real code, functional, readable, exportable code that does what software actually needs to do. The AI understands your intent from plain English, translates it into working architecture, makes decisions about how to structure the backend, and gives you something that a professional engineer could look at and build on top of. That distinction, real code versus visual abstractions, is everything. It means the ceiling of what you can build is dramatically higher, and it means that even if you eventually need to hand your project to a developer, you're giving them a head start, not a mess to clean up. But, and this is important, these tools are not magic wands. They shift the difficulty, not eliminate it. Instead of debugging code, you're debugging prompts. Instead of writing logic, you're describing it clearly enough for an AI to translate correctly. The skill is different, but there is still a skill. The people who get the best results understand this up front. Now let's talk about how the landscape actually breaks down, because there's a meaningful split between these tools that most reviews gloss over. On one side, you have what are called AI native editors. These are tools where you're still working closely with code. The AI is writing it, but you can see it, edit it, and guide it at a technical level. These tools are extraordinary for beginners who want to learn, who are curious about how things work, or who have some technical instinct even without formal training. On the other side, you have what are increasingly called AI app builders or vibe coding platforms. These are tools where the code is essentially invisible to you. You describe what you want, you see the result, you iterate through conversation, you deploy with a button. The code exists underneath, but you don't need to interact with it at all. Most people coming to this topic with no coding background will find the second category, the AI app builders, far more approachable, and that's the category we're going to spend the most time on today. But, and this is important, even within the AI app builders, there are important differences between what each tool is actually designed for, and picking the wrong one for your situation is the most common reason people hit a wall, burn through their credits, and give up thinking they failed, when really they just picked the wrong tool. Let's start with the tool that consistently earns the best reviews from complete beginners. It's a cloud-based platform, meaning there's nothing to install, nothing to configure on your machine. You open a browser, describe what you want to build, and the AI starts building it. The experience is designed from the ground up for people who have never built software before. What makes it stand out is two things. First, the onboarding is genuinely smooth. The first-time experience feels guided rather than overwhelming. You're not staring at a blank configuration screen wondering what database schema means. Second, and more importantly, the backend is handled automatically. User authentication, the database that stores your data, basic security, these are things that trip up almost every non-technical builder on other platforms. Here, they're defaults, not decisions. The product is strong enough that in roughly 8 months of operation, it reached $100 million in annual revenue, by almost any measure, one of the fastest growing software products ever launched. Non-technical founders, product managers, designers, and small business owners have built real working products with paying customers on it. The trade-off is that it's opinionated. You get a specific technology stack, one front-end framework, one database provider. If you want to build something that fits that mold, it's excellent. If your idea requires specific technical requirements that fall outside it, you'll run into limits. The second tool occupies a slightly different space. It's built for speed above everything else. The experience is open a browser tab, type a description, and within minutes you're looking at a live, shareable link to a working prototype. No account setup, no configuration, just an idea that becomes something real almost instantly. This tool's strength is the gap between having an idea and having something you can show another person. For validating concepts, for pitching to stakeholders, for getting early user feedback, nothing else moves faster. It supports more frameworks than the first tool, meaning you have flexibility in how the technical foundation is built. The challenge is that it's more honest about what it is, a rapid prototyping tool. For complex, production-ready applications with sustained user loads and real data handling requirements, there are documented limitations. Some of the negative user reviews come from people who went in expecting a finished product and instead got an excellent prototype that needed further development to be production-ready. If you understand that going in, it's one of the best tools in this space. If you don't, you'll be frustrated. The honest recommendation, use this tool to get your idea out of your head and into something you can look at and iterate on. Use one of the other tools in this list to take that validated idea to a finished product. The third tool takes a different philosophical approach, and it's the right choice for a specific kind of person. It's also entirely browser-based. It has an AI agent, it can build full-stack applications, but it also gives you a window into the code. You can see what the AI is writing. You can open the terminal. You can look at individual files. You can, if you want, start to understand what's actually happening underneath. With 35 million users, it's the largest platform in this comparison by a wide margin. The reason is its educational roots. It was originally built for people learning to code, and that orientation towards teaching and transparency is still baked into the experience. For the person who comes in with zero experience but genuine curiosity, who wants to build something but also wants to understand what they're building, this is the tool that grows with you the fastest. You can start by just prompting the AI. As you get comfortable, you can start looking at the code. Eventually, you're reading it, then tweaking it, then writing small pieces yourself. The learning curve is a feature, not a bug. The challenge is that the full power of the platform requires understanding some technical concepts, and the AI agent, while capable, can sometimes get into loops during complex debugging sessions that consume credits faster than expected. Be aware of the pricing model before going deep on a complex project. Now here's a question that applies to all three of these tools, and it's the question almost no beginner thinks to ask until they run into the problem. What happens when you want to add something the tool doesn't natively support? Every AI app builder has a ceiling. The first tool is excellent for a certain class of applications, but has specific constraints around the technology stack. The second is optimized for speed and breadth of prototyping, but isn't positioned as a production deployment platform by its own creators. The third is the most technically comprehensive, but requires the most engagement. The pattern that experienced builders have converged on is a graduation workflow. Start with the tool that gets you to a working, testable version of your idea fastest. Validate that the idea is worth building. Then, and this is the part that seems counterintuitive, export the code and take it into one of the more advanced tools to push further. This works because all of these tools generate real exportable code that you own. There's no lock-in. The code belongs to you. And because the code is real, it can be reviewed, modified, and built on by a professional developer if you reach a point where the AI tools hit their limits. Let's pause here and talk about a concept that you'll see all over discussions of AI coding tools in 2026, a term that made it into the dictionary last year and became so widespread that the person who coined it almost immediately declared it obsolete. The The concept is building software by describing your vision in plain language, following the feeling of where the project wants to go, without worrying about the underlying technical details. Not programming in the traditional sense, more like directing a very capable AI towards an outcome, iterating based on what you see, and trusting the tools to handle the implementation. Collins English Dictionary named this their word of the year in 2025. By February 2026, the person who originated the concept had already moved on, arguing that the next evolution is not even this collaborative approach, but a fully agentic one, where you set goals and autonomous AI systems handle everything from code to deployment, while you focus on what the product should do and why. We're somewhere in the middle of that transition right now. The tools we've covered today sit at the accessible end of that spectrum, tools designed for people who want the outcome, not the process. And that positioning is exactly right for someone coming to this with no technical background. Here's the reality check that most guides skip because it changes how you should approach these tools. The number one mistake beginners make is
We are somewhere in the middle of that transition right now. The tools we've covered today sit at the accessible end of that spectrum, tools designed for people who want the outcome, not the process. And that positioning is exactly right for someone coming to this with no technical background. Here's the reality check that most guides skip because it changes how you should approach these tools. The number one mistake beginners make is being too vague. These tools are astonishingly capable, but they generate what you describe, not what you imagine. If your description is vague, the output is a guess at what you might have meant. If your description is specific, describing the exact user flow, what happens when a user clicks a specific button, what data gets stored and where it comes from, the output is dramatically more accurate. The second mistake is not planning or prompting. The best results with AI app builders come when you've spent 15 or 20 minutes writing out in plain English what your application does, who uses it, what the main features are, and how the data flows. You don't need to understand code to do this. You just need to think clearly about what you're building. People who bring a clear description get a working product. People who bring a vague idea get a vague product. The third mistake is expecting perfection in one prompt. These tools are iterative. You describe, you see the result, you refine. The AI is not going to read your mind, but it will follow your direction with impressive precision if you give it good direction. Now let's talk about the path forward, because this is where the video gets genuinely useful. The AI app builders we've covered are the right starting point for someone with no coding background. They're the easiest entry point, but they're not where the story ends. There's a natural progression. You start with an AI app builder to build and validate. As your project grows, as your requirements get more specific, as you start to want finer control over what's happening, you start to encounter the edges of what these tools can do for you. That's when people typically move into AI native editors. These are full development environments where the AI still does most of the heavy lifting, but you're working closer to the code. You can see it, understand it, guide it with more precision. The gap between what you can build here versus what you can build with an app builder is significant. And eventually, some people cross into the most powerful tier, the terminal agents and agentic coding tools, where you're directing the AI to work across an entire code base, planning architecture, running tests, and executing complex multi-step engineering tasks. That progression is not necessary for everyone. Many people build successful, profitable tools that stay entirely within the first category. But understanding that the path exists, that there's a clear road from I can't code at all to I can direct an AI to build almost anything I can describe, changes how you approach learning and building. One more thing worth saying clearly, because it comes up in every honest conversation about these tools. The AI makes mistakes. Not frequently, not catastrophically most of the time, but the code it generates is not always correct. The application it builds may have edge cases it didn't handle. The data flow may have gaps you didn't anticipate, and because you didn't write the code yourself, you may not immediately see where the problem is. This is not a reason to avoid these tools. It's a reason to use them with appropriate expectations. Review what the AI builds. Test your application with real scenarios before you share it with real users. If something breaks, describe the problem to the AI specifically. 9 times out of 10, it can fix what it built. And if you ever need to hand the project to a developer, the code is there, it's real, and a professional can pick it up. The tools are remarkable. They are legitimately transforming who gets to build software. But they're a starting point for your involvement in the process, not a replacement for it. Your judgment, your taste, your clarity about what you want to build, these things matter more than ever because the AI will build exactly what you direct it towards. Direct it well, and the result will surprise you. There has never been a better time to take an idea that's been sitting in your head and turn it into something real. The technical barrier is genuinely lower than it's ever been. The tools are more capable than they've ever been. And the gap between having an idea and having a working product that you can put in front of real people has collapsed from months to days, sometimes hours. The person who builds the next interesting tool, the next useful product, the next small business running on software they made themselves, that person doesn't need a computer science degree anymore. They need a clear idea, a specific description, and the willingness to iterate. The tools are here. The AI is ready. The only thing left is the idea.